Welcome everyone to AURI Connects Webinar Wednesday, part of AURI Connects monthly online series featuring updates on the work AURI is doing to foster long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products. I'm Clay Newton, the AURI Meats Innovation Specialist, and your host on Webinar Wednesday. The AURI Connects program is hosted by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute in Minnesota. This program aims to actively engage all participants in the food and ag industry to improve competitiveness of producers, businesses, and entrepreneurs through ongoing purposeful connection, resources, and partners along the value chain, and increased knowledge of opportunities, technologies, and trends. Remember, this event is being recorded and archived and can be found at auri.org. Remember that you will be muted during our presentations, but you can send us your written questions through the Q&A portal on your screen. Today, we will be talking about meat and poultry processing technical assistance opportunities. Joining the discussion today are Sarah Hernandez, who is the program coordinator for the USDA's Meat and Poultry Processing Technical Assistance Program, Dave Carter, the Regional Technical Assistance Coordinator for Flower Hill Institute, Laura Bachmeyer, AURI's Business Development Director of Meat, Meg Moynihan, the Senior Advisor of Strategy and Innovation at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture. We will start today with comments from Sarah Hernandez, who is a program coordinator for USDA's Meat and Poultry Processing Technical Assistance Program, which launched in March of 2022 and provides meat and poultry processors access to valuable technical assistance and resources to develop expansion products, apply for and manage federal grants and loans, and connect with businesses and operational expertise to support their success. Sarah has been with the USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service for 20 years, serving in various roles, supporting the domestic and international marketing of U.S. meats and poultry products. Sarah has a BS in animal science and animal industry management from California State Polytechnic University in Sonoma. She lives with her family and an undisclosed number of creatures, great and small, on a little farm in Central Virginia. Then we will turn to Dave Carter, who serves as a Director of Regional Technical Assistance Coordinator for the Flower Hill Institute, an Indigenous-led nonprofit organization coordinating the Technical Assistance Network USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service has established to support producers seeking to create a more resilient, diversified, and equitable meat and poultry processing system in the United States. Carter has also a deep background in natural food marketing and agricultural public policy. His marketing expertise includes work in natural meat, cheese, and pet food products. Our third guest is Laura Bachmeyer, who is AURI's Business Development Director of Meats. In this role, she assists in advancing the value-added meat industry for the purpose of rural economic development by providing meat science leadership through education and training coordination, exploring new meat innovations, and developing robust professional networks. She has a Master's of Science degree in meat science and muscle biology, and a Bachelor of Science degree in animal science and agricultural business, both from North Dakota State University. And finally, we will hear from Meg Moynihan, who serves as the Senior Advisor, Strategy and Innovation at the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, where she focuses on emerging issues and leads the agency's work on farm stress. She previously managed the agency's organic program, worked in the nonprofit and educational sectors as a program director and evaluator, and served with the U.S. Peace Corps of Thailand. Moynihan owns and operates a diversified 70-cow organic dairy farm and her husband, Kevin Studeman. So with that, let's get started. Sarah Hernandez, welcome to Webinar Wednesday.
Thank you so much for that welcome. Hello, everybody. Very much appreciate AURI giving us this opportunity to present this information to your audience. And there's just a tremendous amount of support and initiative and momentum behind USDA's rolling out of their food systems transformation initiatives, including meat and poultry processing capacity expansion projects. And I just really appreciate the opportunity to be on this panel along with Dave and Laura and Meg from Minnesota, who I hope is going to talk about some of the state grant programs that have been available. And just appreciate again the opportunity to be here with very passionate folks with tremendous amount of expertise and experience and initiative that we've brought into this technical assistance project. So I can't wait to just turn it right over to Dave Carter so he can tell you more about our technical assistance network and what we have done over the last several months and where we're going in the future.
Appreciate that, yeah, very much. And thank you to AURI for hosting this webinar. This is really a very, very timely and important topic. And then thank you to everybody that's participating today. So as we said before, yeah, I'm Dave Carter, one of the directors of the Flower Hill Institute. We have the cooperative agreement with AMS, with Sarah and her crew, to coordinate this technical assistance network. And I really want to just open up by kind of providing the reason for the technical assistance network and then the breadth of the network itself. So first of all, this really is part of what I call USDA's BOLD initiative. At the beginning of this year, the Biden administration made a $1 billion commitment to creating a more resilient, diverse, and equitable meat and poultry processing system. But they knew that it couldn't just be about building plants. If they were going to give grants out just to construct some processing facilities around the country, that was going to be a recipe for disaster. So as a part of that commitment, they made a commitment to bring together a group of organizations to provide a really qualified network for technical assistance. And then Flower Hill, as I mentioned, was brought on to serve in the coordinating role. So first of all, what are we working on? What kind of technical assistance do we provide? We really have 4 areas in our scope of work. First of all is federal funding, is working with people to access the grant opportunities that are out there, some of the loan opportunities, or even other resources that are available. Second is to help them with their business development. It's not just about processing meat, it's about meat processing, poultry processing enterprises as businesses. And so we're here to help with that. And then to provide some technical assistance just in the whole area of processing, regulations, compliance, construction, all of those type of things. And then to work on the broader supply chain. How do we get those animals into a facility? How do we get those products into the marketplace? So this is a long-term broad commitment the USDA has made. It's not a one and done. It's to be there throughout the process. Just the Flower Hill team, I'm not going to introduce everybody, but Chris Roper and myself are the 2 primary regional directors for this. We review everything that comes in. We try and serve as utility infielders, serving where we can to address any of the questions. Flower Hill is operated by Roger Frawa. He's the executive director, and Leslie Elgood is the person who keeps everything together. And then we have a great team behind us. And as you can see, our team, even though it's based in New Mexico, we go all the way from Maine and New York down to the Southwest. So we really are spread around the country. But then the other folks that are part of this technical assistance network, there are really 5 key organizations. First of all is the Niche Meat Processing Assistance Network out of Oregon State. This is an extension-based program. It's been around for a while. I think a lot of people are familiar with Rebecca Thistlethwaite. I always have problems with her last name there, but and her team there, they do some tremendous work. Everything from operating the Western Meat Academy to they have a specialist on board that can help people with halal processing, mobile processing, really a breadth of expertise that they have. And then the Intertribal Agriculture Council. They represent about 100 tribes across the country. Sarah and I, and Laura and others were out at their conference last week in Las Vegas. They had over 1,000 people there addressing all areas of helping indigenous producers move into the food system. NPAN and IAC both had pre-existing TA technical assistance capabilities. So they brought that to the table on day one when we started this program, and it's been a great asset. Then we also have the American Association of Meat Processors. It's the largest meat processing trade association in the country, but it doesn't represent the largest producers. Their 1,600 members are primarily comprised of small and very small producers or processors, and they also have a wealth of expertise. In fact, there's the Meat Processing Inspection Readiness Grant that was out earlier this year. And anybody that got one of those grants got a 3-year membership in AMP, which gave them access to all of the resources in the members only section of the website, HACCP plans, regulatory compliance. We're also utilizing, I know AMP right now is working with some of our folks that are having some regulatory issues. So a great partner. The American Meat Science Association has about 1,000 scientists in their network looking at how do we develop all things meat? How do we have new uses for meat and new meat products? Rob Maddock, who's with AMSA, also has a lot of expertise in working with folks on applying for and managing grants. And then our host today, AURI. And the key thing I see, is in their name is utilization. They are all about how do we utilize everything that we process. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. And even though AURI is headquartered up in the Midwest and technically serves the Midwest, they haven't said no to any requests that we've had for working with folks around the country. And then as we've gone forward, we've developed some memorandums of understanding with organizations that can really help us reach out to particularly underserved producers. And we have 10 of them to date. And these are MOUs. These organizations are working with us to make sure that their constituents understand and have access to this technical assistance network, but also some of them have some resources that we're bringing to the table to help out with folks that reach out to us for technical assistance. So, and Sarah's got a slide that's very similar to this, but this is really important. It's, as I said before, it's not just about building a processing facility. It's about assistance at every step of the process. And I always like to talk about it as a bookend approach, starting off with what are we producing? What are the species that we have? How many are we looking to process? What are the finishing protocols? What is the cultural considerations that we have? All of those factors that are important to the producers of those animals. And then the second thing is, where are we going to go with the product? Are we going to go into a national or regional distribution for grocers or restaurants, or do we want to go to more to institutional supply, local school systems, elder care, local communities, or go into direct consumer through farmers markets and other things? And then that really helps us determine what is the infrastructure that's required to connect those areas. And when we look at that, it's a very, very diverse type of infrastructure that we can look at. There's everything from brick and mortar processing facilities. There's been a lot of interest in mobile processing facilities. This is an example of something that's been done through a cooperative in the Montana Farmers Union. And then there's something a lot of folks aren't familiar with, is modular processing facilities. It's almost like a prefab unit that comes out and gets set on a concrete slab where you already have your 3-phase power and your water and your waste disposal. And then there are other things. We're working with groups right now that are developing community kitchens, where just that, and these are particularly on some indigenous communities, where the tribal members can bring in their own animals and process them in a very sanitary condition. So again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's trying to figure out what fits for that. And then the additional priorities that we have through our community, through our network, is helping projects address their workforce needs. And this has been important part of the $1 billion commitment that USDA has made. Is a lot of funding has gone out to help particularly technical schools and community colleges develop workforce training programs. And what we're doing at Flower Hill is developing a database of those programs, so that as we have some folks working forward to develop a project, that we can connect them with a community college or school that is providing that workforce training. And then financing. And I'm not going to go through this because I know Sarah's going to talk about this in her slides, but There have been a lot of different things coming out in addition to the grants that are some financing opportunities for projects. And then the other thing, and I mentioned this is where AURI is such a great partner, is we've got to work with these projects to market the whole animal. You know, the difference we have between the larger processors and the smaller processors is those larger processors get value for everything, leather, pet food, cosmetic byproducts, those type of things that come off the animal. And so many of those smaller plants are paying to have them hauled to a landfill. And so we're working to address that, to develop some new ways, some new supply chain areas to be able to address that. And then we all have our eyes out for the next round of grants that are going to be coming out. And again, Sarah will talk about that in a minute. So it's a very, very simple process to apply for technical assistance. The first thing we encourage folks to do is go into the Flower Hill Institute site, and there is a form there. I just put up the QR code. Anybody can go to that QR code. It'll take you directly to that technical assistance form. Takes about 5 minutes to fill out. You give us your information. And then when that comes in, Chris and myself and Shelby on our team, we review that request. And first of all, a lot of people just want some additional information, or we may need some additional information from them. So we'll circle back and say, could you tell us a little bit more about what you're needing in this area? We will try and provide them with links, with information they request. And then we try and assign them to one of our providers that can work with them one-on-one. And that may change as they go through the process. They may need some assistance at one point in writing their grant and developing a feasibility study, but later on in developing their floor plan or their marketing plan. And that's where this long-term commitment is so important, is that it's not one and done. It's to be there every step along the way. So with that, I thank you very much. That's my contact information. I welcome anybody to drop me an email with any questions. And now I'm going to turn it back to Sarah.
A great overview of our technical assistance network and just how tremendously robust and wraparound the technical support has been for folks that are working on these types of projects and are interested in getting into or expanding their processing capacity for meat and poultry products. So again, my name is Sarah Hernandez. I'm with USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service, and I'm the USDA coordinator for the Technical Assistance Program. So I have the great pleasure of working with AURI and these other TA providers over these months in delivering this technical assistance to the folks that need it. I thought I would take a kind of a step back and put the meat and poultry technical assistance and the meat and poultry supply chain investments into the bigger picture of what USDA is really doing under this administration to create more resilient and more robust food systems across the country. And so I thought I would just talk about more high level what it is that the U.S. Department of Agriculture sees as the end result, as the objective here for not only the meat and poultry grants and lending programs, but across the board workforce development and with investments in local and regional food supply chains and food safety and a wide variety of things, which I'll touch on here in a second. But basically the idea here is that, you know, we saw over the last couple of years some very obvious vulnerabilities in our current food system. And we saw the effects of those vulnerabilities were disproportionately based on either end of the food system, on the producers on one side and on the markets and the consumers on the other side. And that there was just a need to create some more resiliency, some more diversity, provide more options of how to move food products from one end of this chain to the other by investing and creating some innovation in the middle of the supply chain and processing, aggregation, and distribution. So in June of this year, not too long ago, USDA made an announcement where they laid out the framework for their entire food systems transformation kind of vision. And it included these 4 areas: the food production, food processing, food distribution and aggregation, and markets and consumers. So really end-to-end supply chain investments going on within USDA through grant programs, cooperative agreements, research, extended lending programs, so on and so forth. And a tremendous amount of money that's being invested across the board in these food systems transformation initiatives. I've outlined some of them here. I've highlighted a few of them that speak particularly to our meat and poultry processing initiatives. And I've included a link there that I hope you will go and read that announcement in its entirety to gain some more understanding and kind of direct yourself to any of these other areas of investment that might catch your eye, because certainly many of us on this call today have interests in supporting agriculture that go even beyond meat and poultry processing and developing those supply chains. And you might see that there are a tremendous amount of opportunities right now and that are planned for the near future across food systems. So then going back to what Dave was talking about, specifically with the meat and poultry supply chain, we have, fewer and fewer options for farmers and ranchers to be selling their products. We have a lot of concentration in the middle of the supply chain and processing, aggregation, and distribution. And that bottleneck has, as we all saw, really created a vulnerability when anything really, whether it be a pandemic or a cybersecurity threat or any kind of instability like that, targets that middle of the supply chain or breaks down that middle of the supply chain. It's the folks on either end, the producers and the consumers, who are left at the disadvantage. So we really recognize the need to expand access, to financing and support to build out some diversity and some alternate pathways for products to get from producers to consumers, whether that be on a local scale, whether that be on a regional scale, or whether that be more diversity across the national supply chains. And so there's three programs that I wanted to just call to your attention right now that are specifically of importance to meat and poultry processing expansion projects. And these are the three of them here, although I've got a few slides I'm going to run through. The first one, and this is an opportunity that's available right now, is the Meat and Poultry Intermediary Relending Program. This is considered a pass-through program in that it is offering funding to lending establishments to establish revolving loan funds for the purpose of funding meat and poultry processing middle supply chain projects. The first round of awards was announced in early November and awarded $75 million to 8 lenders in 7 states. And you can find that information at the website that's provided there. The second round of those applications are being sought from lenders right now, with a closing date of December 31st for that second round of applications. And we anticipate awards of those MPILP agreements by late February of next year. So the eligible awardees for these types of lending programs are private nonprofits, community development, financial institutions, public entities. So basically folks that can operate lending programs that are going to target meat and poultry processing expansion projects. And the funding that's going into these loans is up to $15 million. And that has to go through at least 2 cycles. So the money comes out of the lending fund, then is utilized by a project. They pay back the loan, and then that money is there again to be relent out to a project, another project that further supports meat and poultry processing development. And I've provided a point of contact, so if you're interested in this program, you can reach out directly with Kevin Boone, who is with USDA's Rural Development. Another one is the Food Supply Chain Guarantee Loan Programs, and this is an ongoing opportunity as well, so it's open right now for applications. This is another pass-through program where it's encouraging development and expansion of loan opportunities for not only rural, but for in this case, there's no geographic restriction. So across the nation, in offering up more opportunities for loans that will support supply chain businesses in food aggregation, processing, manufacturing, storage, transportation, wholesaling, and distribution. So a wide variety of activities that might be covered are eligible for one of these loans. Again, I've got a website here for you to take a look at, and I've provided their point of contact again with rural development, who would be your first contact if you're interested in food supply chain guaranteed loans, what lending agents already have been approved to offer these guaranteed loans, and how to connect with them. And lastly, I thought I would briefly talk about the Meat and Poultry Processing and Expansion Program. I'm sure many of you on this call have already have some familiarity with this grant program that was launched earlier this year. The first round of those awards began to be announced in early November. So far, Rural Development has announced 21 processors who've been awarded $73 million across those projects. And these are particularly projects that are meat and poultry processing facilities who are looking to complete their expansion projects or complete their construction projects. So really the idea here was to invest as soon as we could in expanding those regional and local meat and poultry processing supply chains very quickly. The awards were made in 16 states, 8+ species were involved. You know, some these facilities were single species, some of them were multi-species facilities. The maximum award was for those was up to $25 million. This was a tremendously popular program the first time around. Rural Development received a considerable number of applications. It was oversubscribed, in fact. And they are still continuing to make a few more announcements of awards under that round one, as specific projects are still under review for environmental review requirements. But that said, there is a round two that is under development right now. The department hasn't released any public statement about what that program will look like. But you know, working with AURI and Dave Carter's team at Flower Hill and our other TA providers, we've been keeping them abreast as best we can on those developments. And it will, you know, be some iteration of MPEP with adjustments made to make it more accessible for small and very small businesses to participate, and to really focus on participation not only by very small businesses, but underserved USDA stakeholders as well, including rural areas, minority areas of business, and tribal institutions. So for that one, I would just encourage you, if you're interested in the next round of MPEP 2, to get connected with our technical assistance network. Like Dave provided you some information on how to do that, so you can stay informed on what's coming down the pipe. That's it for me. I guess I will turn it over to Meg Moynihan. Very nice to meet you, Meg.
Hi, Sarah. Hi, and thank you for setting me up for success here. I work for the Minnesota Department of Agriculture, and we are one of the entities who received a Meat and Poultry Intermediate Lending Program award earlier this year. And so I wanted to let you know about that. It means there will be resources available to Minnesota facilities located in Minnesota, meat and poultry processors in early 2023. And the Minnesota Department of Ag received $15 million as a grant. And then the agreement is that we make that available for revolving loans. So the loans go out, the money comes back, and then we can lend more. And so at this time, the plan is that we will offer collateralized loans of up to $10 million. We are anticipating a interest rate of about 3%. That may nudge up a little bit, but we're certainly not going to go crazy with it. The term will be 10 years, although there will be an option to amortize for 20 with a balloon payment at 10. And as Sarah mentioned, the focus here is really on small and very small entities, which means up to 500 employees. So that's who we're focused on, both custom exempt and state inspected facilities will be eligible. We anticipate that any of the federally inspected facilities would be greater than 500 employees, although maybe that's not the case. But so I guess I could have added federal inspected to that line. And these funds can be used for anything from startup to expansion, operation, and or value-added meat and poultry processing. So the facility might slaughter and do further processing, or it might, receive the animals after slaughter and do the value-added meat and poultry processing. The types of expenditures that qualify are land, equipment, machinery, safety investments, food and or worker safety, environmental improvements, working capital. The list is longer than that, but I picked out the things that I thought would be of most interest to this group, and we certainly can provide more information when we roll out that opportunity. We do have several smaller state-funded grant programs. I'm thinking of one that is meat, poultry, and milk value-added processing. Those are grant programs that are available between $1,000 and $150,000. But the program here that we're focusing on is the revolving loan program, which is quite a bit more substantial in terms of the resources available, but as I said, is a loan program. Mary Gritzmacher is our loan officer who will be in charge of that, and you can see her contact information up on the slide here. And I know that the folks at AURI and Dave and others will be really eager to help us get the word out when we start taking applications for this. We're very excited, and I appreciate AURI letting me muscle in here and add my slide. I was on the team that wrote the proposal on behalf of MDA to rural development to secure these funds. And so it's a point of pride for me to be able to announce this today and let you know that this is coming in early 2023 in Minnesota.
Thank you for sharing that with us, Meg, very much. And next, Laura, what are you talking about?
Yeah, thank you, Clay, and appreciate comments from Dave, Sarah, and Meg, and kind of building upon what they have shared with us today within this MPPTA program. Want to really highlight the opportunities that AURI can bring to the table for meat and poultry processors. So to get started, I'm sure many of the participants on today's call are familiar with AURI, but kind of want to give a glimpse to those that may not be aware of AURI and our capabilities as it relates to this effort. So again, AURI's mission is to really foster long-term economic growth through value-added agricultural products, both in Minnesota, but as well as our surrounding states. And we really accomplished this through science and technology to help develop new uses for those agricultural products. And this is accomplished by on-site applied research and establishment of those new products and uses for those products of new and existing markets. And again, we have a variety of facilities throughout the state of Minnesota. You can see them all labeled there on your screen. But really want to highlight, again, our staff members are scattered throughout the state and willing and able to assist to our various services that we provide, but kind of highlighting our Marshall office, which really pertains to the meat and poultry processing, is that at that location, we have our analytics laboratory, but specific to meat, we do have and currently recently are a validated USDA federally inspected laboratory. And so a lot of work can be done in that laboratory and the pieces of equipment that we provide, as well as a sensory and evaluation laboratory. So we have a variety of on-site capabilities that we can offer processors. And kind of going a little bit more in depth in terms of what we do for our mission, can kind of capture it into a couple focus areas. Within our co-products, bio-based products and renewable energy is our bioindustrial team members. But specifically for today, obviously we're talking about meat, so we'll be segmented into the focus area within our meat team and our food team. So with AURI and the MPPTA program, we offer a lot of different client services that pertain to the processors that we work with, both within this program and just in our day-to-day jobs that we provide within our organization. So if we really capture it into four main categories, we have applied research, which is really transforming research into real opportunities with direct support to the businesses or entrepreneurs. And one example for that, and if you visit our website, we have our Entrepreneur in Residency program, which is a great program, and I highly recommend folks to go take a look at that. But a majority of our work too falls in technical assistance. And that's for product and product development, really understanding that troubleshooting, problem solving through the expertise of our staff members. We have a great team of staff with the expertise and a plethora of knowledge that can help, address those problems that may be and solutions to a meat processor. And that also includes, as well as our infrastructure that we have at our variety of laboratories within the state. But a majority in bulk as well, we do a lot of commercialization, and that pertains to business development, market development, financial feasibility, and just, your traditional tactical needs that we can provide meat processors. Simple example is understanding nutrition labels or different various forms of product formulation and validation to help out the meat processors. And then lastly, our innovation networking. We have a broad span of network connections throughout the state and region and beyond that we really have the ability to look at the value chain and understand what are those challenges, how can we learn from one another and address those topics at hand. And we do that through, again, we're all participating in this AURI Connects webinar Wednesday, obviously in-person events, our podcasts, etc., to really collaborate with those that we partake with. And again, especially this technical assistant network, just sharing that information that we're hearing out in the field and how can we really address those topics. And then lastly, because we are a meat team, we provide some coaching with HACCP and food safety. A lot of our questions and inquiries pertain to that and being able to address some of those responses to folks. And as it relates to specifically, again, this MPPTA network program, and Sarah and Dave gave a good explanation as to those various scopes of work. Just want to address that AURI has those various capabilities to address each of those scopes of work. Again, with the federal funding, business development, technical assistance, as well as anything related to the supply chain development. And with that, noteworthy is that, this is one of many webinars that we will be partaking in that addresses the MPPTA program, but really wanting to focus on each of the different scopes of work and bring that knowledge to the meat and poultry processors and those that are involved within the industry and just wanting to learn more. Oops, excuse me. So I kind of gave some clients service examples, but really pertaining to the MPPTA program, with business development, you can see the list there of the various, assisting processors in the infrastructure, market access, input supply, regulatory that they may need assistance with, which falls under those four scopes of work that we are pursuing within this network. As well, again, science and technology and technical assistance is part of our AURI mission. And here's a list of just the various components that we can provide to our meat and poultry processors through the work that we're doing, as well as collaborating with the other network providers within the program. And as Dave had mentioned before, again, we are a nonprofit within the state of Minnesota, but we're also helping out the other surrounding states. But that doesn't limit us either. But our main focus within the TA network providing geographical location is really focused in this 5-state region in the upper Midwest. So obviously we have Minnesota, the Dakotas, Iowa, and Wisconsin, but not that we're limiting our opportunities because all of the TA providers span across the US, but just within our network connections have within that region. Moving on, just kind of wanted to provide the group with some numbers in terms of who we have assisted thus far in certain areas within the technical assistant network, as Flower Hill is a coordinator, and the responses from processors that are submitting in needing assistance. So multiple referrals to date. Again, we have our upper Midwest, but we've assisted other meat processors within other areas of the US. And breaking it down into the 4 scopes of work, again, federal grant management, technical assistant, business development, and supply chain, can kind of see the numbers in terms of how we're really assisting the processors through that. And Sarah had mentioned, various federal funding opportunities. And a couple months ago, the MPERG, the Meat and Poultry Readiness Grant, that was awarded within our 5-state region, kind of breaking it down and how we're working with those specific processors that have received the awards as a part of this USDA program, and how we can, as awardees, assist them. And again, beyond that, I just wanted to point out that, within our staff, we're really working collaboratively with our different ag departments and partners there, but really utilizing the collaboration too within our various state and meat inspection services, because again, they're the ones, the boots on the ground. And I think it's really important that we keep that open communication and making sure that we're helping out these processors in the efforts currently and moving forward. And lastly, just wanted to share, similar to Dave, kind of our list of our AURI staff members that are really a part of this program. And Kim, myself, and Clay are kind of our meat team, but we have our various other colleagues that really put effort towards this program. And want to thank them in everything that we're doing for our meat processors. But I do encourage everyone, we have the website located down at the bottom of your screen on this slide. And if you visit aurii.org, we have an updated meat science webpage, and really have a lot of deliverables and kind of goes more in depth as to everything that I've spoken about today. But being able to connect with us as it relates to, again, this whole TA network, and willing and able to assist where we can. So with that, again, want to really thank everyone for the opportunity to speak to everyone today of the overview of AURI, our capabilities as a TA provider within this region and the US. And I will pass the microphone over to you, Clay.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you for that explanation of AURI and what all we can provide to any meat processors beyond. And now, Dr. Rotenberger, are you available?
As I stated in my resume, I'm a retired veterinarian, and I couldn't stand to be retired, so I looked into the opportunity of purchasing a meat shop. So, which I did 2 years ago, 1st of September. And it's been quite a learning experience, and the education continues. We process approximately 10 to 12 animals per week. I have the capacity here to probably do 20 a week, but because of the workforce, it hasn't been feasible. I've had a couple of grants. Both the MPI RG and the extension grant. I was able to secure both of those, and one of them was, the first one was basically I improved and updated the smoking system with a new smoker and a new room and that sort of thing, and that was that took a lot of the money. Plus I purchased a bandsaw and some other equipment to update the facility. This last one a grant, I used basically the funds to improve and utilize my composting system, which I kind of did on my own, but I got the funds to buy a skid steer and a water truck, a sewage truck, and that sort of thing. Along with other funds I used was for equipment. I bought new display freezers out front, as well as I'm going to change the heating water system in here to online demand. I don't know what I could tell you specifically about the composting situation was or is. The situation for me when I purchased this facility was we were hauling our offal to a landfill 45 to 50 miles away. And that was once or twice a week. And I didn't see where that was economically feasible on top of buying a wagon, a box to store the material in, and then have a disposal company come and pick the trailer up. And in that process, of course, you have that offal exposed to the air. Although we had a tarp on it, it still didn't do the control with the pests, the flies, and that sort of thing. So I opted to look into composting, and I've been doing composting since probably the 1st of June. And it's been working out really well for me. I have a ranch, so I'm able to get my own organic material. And then with the stuff from the facility, it's worked out really well. I don't have nearly the fly issue I've had before or the odor issue. I certainly, and besides the economic value, there's just no downside to it other than the initial input for equipment. So with that, I guess that'll be the basis for somebody wanting to ask me questions. Feel free to do so.
All right, thank you for that explanation, Dr. Rotenberger. So first off, I'd like to thank all our speakers today, Sarah, Dave, Meg, Laura, and Dr. Rotenberger. And we now have we're moving into the question and answer section. And we got a few different questions already put in. So one of them is from Don Arnosti, and they said, can someone elaborate on efforts to allow small meat processors to market the whole animal, and to please provide some specific examples? So would someone like to take that?
Well, I can start off on that because, as I mentioned in my slides, that's a huge focus for us. So we are working in a couple of areas, particularly, first of all, in the area of hide and leather utilization. We're working with the Hide and Leather Council of America, who is working with some manufacturers, particularly apparel manufacturers, that are wanting story leather. They want leather that is produced by tribal producers, or it's bison, or it's regenerative, or, etc. And so working with them and with some groups like Other Half Processing, we're looking at some ways to kind of restructure the supply chain for, first of all, working with processors on how to harvest those hides and to keep those hides in good condition, how to have the verification and the traceability on those hides, and then how to aggregate them. So that's been the starting point. But we're also working with folks in the pet food industry as well. If you've gone into Petco or PetSmart through the last few years, you can see what they call the humanization of pets is tremendous, and it's a tremendous driver in the pet food business. And so there are pet food manufacturers out there that are looking for, again, high quality, specialized, traceable ingredients that will give them a point of differentiation. And those are the types of ingredients that are coming out of these smaller facilities. And so we just have to, again, take a look at how do we restructure that supply chain and the like. And then there are other areas with cosmetics, collagen, gelatin, those type of things. And even as many of these facilities are being developed in areas where there are some real cultural communities that like to eat different parts of the animal, is then how do we use that edible offal? So that's been a huge focus for us, because in order to be successful, it's not just about the tenderloins, ribeyes, and strip. It's about every part of the animal.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off a little bit of what Dave said too. And Don, I apologize, I don't know where you're located, but AURI has various efforts going on right now in addition to looking at hides. But coming soon next year, we will definitely be putting on some short courses and related to short and long-term strategies for byproducts and hides and their utilization. So stay tuned for more information on that, but we're in the efforts of, utilizing every component of the animal, and as we like to say, everything but the squeal in terms, and especially that's important for the very small and small meat processors and how they can utilize various components to the carcass.
All right, thank you both, Dave and Laura. This question comes from Mark Willett, I believe. I apologize if I mispronounced your name, but they said, who is the best contact regarding improvement for wastewater treatment and technologies for meat processors?
Yeah, again, I mean, we are working with some various companies, and we have some of them listed in our resource directory that are doing everything. And, I'm really interested with the conversation there on composting, because that's one of the areas. There are also folks that are doing biodigesters that are designed for smaller scale plants. So we're trying to compile some of that there. But then on the wastewater, Chris Roper, who is my fellow director, he has been involved in working on that with a number of smaller plants and has some good expertise that he can bring to the table.
Yeah, following Dave, we working with the MDA and other groups, again, specific to Minnesota, but one of the things that we're intending to do here at AURI is putting together kind of a list of who to best contact for wastewater management. And, it may vary based on the county, township, et cetera, that you're within. So please follow up with us and we can address that more.
From USDA's perspective, some of this food systems transformation funding is going towards research and innovation initiatives, which mostly is under NIFA, which is the National Institute of Food and Ag, establishing grants and cooperative agreements with research institutions. So it should be that we see some interesting innovations coming out from some of those agreements over the next couple of years as well. Just another area that we can keep our eyes peeled for and look at what they do for innovation and technologies that can be applicable to smaller scale meat and poultry processing.
Thank you, everyone. The next question comes from Ashley Clark, and they're asking, I am in the process of buying a previous USDA inspected processing facility. The county currently owns it, but their appraiser is looking for comparable buildings / values. Are there any resources for that?
I would just encourage her to submit a request for the technical assistance, and then we'll have somebody get together with you, perhaps on a Zoom, and kind of talk through that and see if we could help you.
Again, if anyone has any last minute questions, please feel free to put them in there. But I guess my question is about the revolving loan fund, Meg. Is this mainly for like expansion of any plants or new equipment, or building up new facilities?
It's for all of those things. It is for facilities that are just about to start shoveling and getting into the ground. It's for retrofitting. It's, for existing facilities, adapting facilities that may be there, leasing out facilities to meat and poultry processors. It can be very broad.
Question is, I'd like to know a couple things about the Spruce Hills composting system. One, how is the composted material disposed of? And two, how long does it take to complete composting from start to finish? And three, how might the weather or temperature impact processing, especially in the colder climates up north?
I'm sorry for not getting my picture turned on, but to answer those questions first, First of all, how long does it take to get the compost ready? I have not been in it long enough to know exactly, but the first round that I did, it's been 6 months, and I put it in a 100-foot long strip, about 5 foot tall, and then I turned it every couple weeks. And I just piled that last week, and that's pretty well decomposed. By spring, that'll be usable. But I think you got to plan on a minimum of 6 months, if not a year. And as far as utilization of the compost material, I think you could ask any farmer, and they'd be willing to just take it if you want to just give it to somebody to get rid of it. However, I'm in a situation where I have a government reclamation project where they actually are looking for compost material. So I have that advantage. As far as the cold weather is concerned, you'll be surprised how much heat is generated from that decaying material. And up to this point, it has basically not frozen over. And if it did, I wouldn't be too concerned about it, because if you're using the organic material and bringing it in loads and you got piles of dry organic material, you just need to lay down a layer of organic material a couple feet thick, and then dump your offal on top of that, and then put another couple feet of organic material on top of that. And you'll be surprised that there'll be heat there all the time. I'm not sure what it's going to happen when it gets below 0 or 30 below, but I'm not worried about that, because I still have organic material that I can lay down and put my offal material on top of that and cover it to the point that if it does freeze solid, I'll wait until it generates enough heat that I could turn it. I don't have all the answers to this yet as far as how often to turn it. There's some numbers out there about you should try to get to 120 to 160 degrees in order for this to decay properly. But if you have enough property and you're not involved in regulations, then I think you could do it on your own site, and you have some flexibility. So that's what I'm doing with it. I'm also taking some of the sewage material, the wastewater, and using that to dampen my compost material. I think you have to be careful of not getting too wet. I don't know that you're supposed to keep a certain amount of moisture to it in order to keep the bugs active. I'm not sure I had done a real good job on that in the first row that I did. It may have gotten too dry on me, but it's even surprising after 6 months. I just piled it the other day, and there's still a lot of moisture in it. So I don't have a full program on saying this is exactly how to do it. I think everybody's going to have to kind of trial and error and figure out what good compost looks like and what doesn't, and go from there. But it will decay. You don't have to worry about that. As long as you cover it, that material will decay.
Fantastic. Thank you for that, Dr. Rotenberger. And with that, again, I'd like to thank all our speakers today: Sarah Hernandez, Meg Moynihan, Laura Bachmeyer, Dave Carter, and Dr. Rotenberger. And this concludes AURI Connect's webinar Wednesday for today. We want to again thank all of our speakers. AURI Connect's webinar Wednesday is presented by the Agricultural Utilization Research Institute of Minnesota. AURI's mission is to foster long-term economic benefit for Minnesota through value-added agricultural products and processes. We are interested in your feedback, so please respond when we send you our event evaluations. And remember, for more information on today's program or any of the work that AURI is involved with, please go to auri.org. January 11th will be the next AURI Connects webinar Wednesday. We're looking forward to a program with Naturally Minnesota to hear about their transition from Grow North and some of their future efforts as well. You can always learn more about other works AURI is involved with, again, by going to our website, auri.org. And we are looking forward to having you join us again in January for another AURI Connects webinar Wednesday. And thank you very much.